Welcome to the Abed 11 Chronicles, the most authentic podcast of the year. Join us on this emotional roller coaster as we relive the past and look ahead to the future. The Abed 11 Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories.
Welcome back to the Abed 11 Chronicles. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Hello.
Doing great.
Hey, can you guys believe this is episode 4 of the Abed 11 Chronicles? So I think that's a great achievement that we keep going. I enjoy it because I get to be together with my brothers and sisters every Sunday, and we haven't done that in a long time. We always get together when there's a event, and so just to be able to get together every week, it's been really good for me. So last week we had Pops on here, and he talked a little bit about coming to America and growing up, and I know there was some follow-up from that, and so we kind of want to do a little follow-up today about Pops being on the podcast and some of the things he said and that intrigued some people. One of the things that intrigued me, and I only heard this story one time before, was that Faisal and Jamal lived overseas, and Jamal was the only one actually born in Palestine, and they lived there with our grandmother Siti Amne, and there's so much more to that story because not only they lived there, but they went through some I would think some trauma in a sense where things that they remember. And I was wondering if Faisal and Jamal can elaborate a little bit about that time and what happened, how you got overseas, how long you were over there, when you came back to the United States, and how that felt.
It started, like in 1966. It was me and Jim, and my mom was pregnant with Jamal, and we went overseas, and we stayed with my grandmother, Siti Amna. She was like a mother to me, and then my mom came back to the United States, and they brought Jim back with them and left me, and Jamal was only a couple months old. He was born there, and left us there with Siti, and I think it was her sister, right, Jamal?
Siti Hamdi. Yeah, she was blind. It was her sister, yeah. She was blind. She was a widower, and she was blind too.
And with nothing, so we survived, and then about 6 months into them leaving, the 7-day war broke out, and we had to flee and cross the river to get to the refugee. Put a video one time. He shared it where it showed us how everybody was crossing the river. Did y'all see that?
No, never seen that.
They tied a rope all the way across, and it was. He sent it to me on my Facebook page, where everybody had to hold the rope to get across the water, and he told me that that my grandma gave these men money to carry me and Jamal across the river to the refugee camp. My recollection camp, and it's not like in my greatest memory, but I remember fighting, kicking the soldiers, and they would come and just girls and women and kill men and everything at the refugee camp on a daily basis. And so we made it back to that house in late 1969, and somehow or another they found us in the refugee camp, and they said it was all right to go back to the house. And me and Jamal and Siti went back to the house, and you know, it, it's a lot of stuff happened in between. You know, that like there was some good memories. I remember the guy next door fixing me up a bike, a little tricycle, a red tricycle, and to put a back seat on it, and I'd ride Jamal around, and that was like our favorite thing to do. Um, because City didn't have no money, and so you kind of lived the way you could live. But that's part of it. Uh,
That you remember the soldiers coming and knocking on that door and telling you to leave?
yeah, they came. Yeah, they did. They came to the house and they said, "You have 15 minutes to leave, or we're gonna kill y'all." And City started screaming and crying, and we just took, like, she took her bare minimum stuff, her gold and the little bit of money she had, and we left. And they occupied that area for years, and that house is still there. I think Joe's in-laws or somebody owns it now.
Jamal, do you remember any of that time when you were overseas like that?
Brother, I was young. I really don't remember too much. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I remember, I know coming back, like when I was about 4 or 5 years old to the United States, with my grandmother and Faisal. That's the only thing I remember a little bit. We just think we didn't know no English coming there. You think when the year after we go to school, just at our age, no English at all. But yeah, I don't remember too much. I remember being a little kid over there.
I'm sorry. One of you guys
communicate real good over there, like with over here.
So can I iterate just 1 second? So there was no phones in Abed. I mean, there was no phones at all. In the time that you were there, the way they communicated is through letters, and my grandmother would pay somebody to write a letter for them, and we would all sit around listening to those letters at my other grandmother's house and here in the United States, and then back in '77 when we went back to overseas to take my grandfather back because he was dying of cancer, so he wanted to build a house. He wanted to build a nice house. The house that I stayed in overseas only had electric, and then the water was intermittently. For example, we would have water maybe 1 or 2 days a week because the pots that we would have water in that we would be able to drink. So there's no water. Like, for example, you couldn't get water from the store or anything like back then. There was no bottled water like that. And the time that I was there in '77.
Do you remember?
And my uncles, Uncle Kazim, Uncle Jadu, telling me that. I've been telling me that. I used to say, when I was there at the time that they were there, I was afraid of cats, and because a cat would scratch me, and I would say "bisefemish," which means cat scratch. But the other side of that coin now, I want to tell you that now, when we lived in Boston, we weren't in the best neighborhood. We lived in a small apartment. It was full of roaches. My mom didn't know how to speak the language, so anytime anybody would knock at the door or anything like that, we did go out the window and down the fire escape. We really didn't have I just want to tell you, we weren't in the best situation at the time, but my dad worked really hard for a guy who barely knew how to speak English, and who worked like these jobs out of the blue. He worked in the Boston University, and then he worked at the it was like a small drugstore with restaurant in it, or it was some kind of thing like that. But we really didn't have, like, I just want to tell you that the biggest, for example, I was never allowed to go outside and play because it was a bad neighborhood. So we would, if we went somewhere, it was always like my father we would go shopping or something of that nature. But anyways,
Yeah, but
I guess
let me ask you.
I remember a lot.
Let me ask just a quick question, just so because I want to finish up with that story with Jamal and Faisal being overseas, because my father thinks it was only like 3 months, and Faisal thinks more 3 years. You're the only one really around at that time. Do you don't remember them not being living in the same house as you?
Tell you, it was a 7-day war. I think the best person that you could ask would be, my Uncle Jad was there. He said that during that time that they fled to the Mizra. The Mizra is a place where Abu Jad's from. It's a city, it's out in the boonies. And the war was a 7-day war. And after the occupation of the area, the people were allowed to come back. So I'm not sure the timeline, but I doubt that it would be sustainable to live for that many years in a camp. I'm just telling you, what I know. But I think if we wanted to find something out, I would definitely talk to my Uncle Jadu or my Uncle Kazim, because they were there at the time, and they would see. They knew when they were able to come back. I can make a phone call now if you like.
No, we can find that out. But what I'm asking is,
you're
the oldest child, so
right.
You don't remember your brothers not living with you for a certain amount of time, or do you remember that?
No. I remember when we were there, and I remember leaving, and Faisal was the one that came with me, and I wasn't sure why he was staying, but I think my parents just didn't have enough money to support them. I really do. And I was the older one, and like I told Faisal, I was a khawaf. I mean, I was clingy to my parents all the time. I was scared to go anywhere without him.
So like
I really was.
Mama's boy at the time.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was, think about it. We born in D.C. and it wasn't like I said, we weren't. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but the reason we moved to Arlington was because of the '68. When Martin Luther King got killed, so there was a big riots in D.C. and they burned all these businesses down and everything. So we moved to Arlington back then to the apartment complex. So that's a lot to do with it. I don't know if you know that was in '68. So I think what I'm trying to say, to clarify everything, the people who were there were my uncles, and they can truly clarify exactly how long they were overseas. And if you guys want to go ahead and discuss it, I could talk to Amy right now and talk to her, and she would know.
I talked to Sally. I talked to our mom. Our mom told us that we came here in 1970, like in March, a month before Todd was born. She said.
Yeah.
She said.
I do want to reiterate something. I remember when Todd was born, and because we saw my dad driving up, after when Mom had the baby, and we saw him driving up, and we're all excited, and we were down at the elementary school, and we ran up to the house. But when you guys came, we lived in the apartments. I'm 100% sure we lived in the apartments, because I don't know if you remember, there was like an old car that was in the apartment complex that we would sit in. It was like some abandoned car that we would like hang out in with my cousins. I don't know if you remember that, but that was at the apartments. So it wasn't.
I understand. I don't understand, but you ask Sally, she's there. She'll tell you it was like she was pregnant with Todd, like a couple months before she had Todd. She said that we came with City Am, and we lived in the apartments. But
right.
It was a couple months before.
Yeah, but when Todd was born, we lived in the house in Arlington, brother. I remember
Yeah,
that 100%. I mean, think about it. I was
we
8
just
years
moved
old back
there.
then, you know, when Todd was
Yeah,
born.
and
So go ahead,
I'm
Chad.
glad that Jim. I'm
All,
glad that Jim brought
all,
up the reason that my mom left her kids there, because a lot of viewers might be thinking like, wow, she left her kids for a few years there. But I think Jim hit it on the spot. They didn't have enough money. My mom told me, because I asked her one time, and she said, your dad was in America, and he was like, come bring Najib and come over here, and when we gather enough money, we'll bring your mom and Basil and Jamal back with us, because we can't afford it right now. We need to get situated and settled and everything like that. So I think, a lot of viewers are like, wow. And that was one of my first thoughts too, as a mom, like, how can you leave your kids there? But she trusted Sitsi. She knew Sitsi would do a good job. And I think that's important. Another thing I wanted to touch base on is my dad did say it was just not that long, but he, I believe, was talking about the refugee camp. I don't think it was a few years. When I talked to my mom, Basil's correct. It was a few years they were with Sitsi overseas. When my dad was talking about a few weeks, he was talking about them fleeing and being in that refugee camp and coming back. So my dad said that they were in that refugee camp just for a few weeks or whatever, but they were overseas for a few years. So I just wanted to touch base on those, because I talked to my mom about the story, and I know Jim is saying, bring my uncles in. And I'm sure my uncles are full of knowledge, but my mom too. My mom knows this story. Like, she'll tell you it
Hey,
bad on.
how about our mom? Because it's I don't want to get people confused. Our mom, all right,
Yeah,
our
we all have
parents.
the same mom.
All right, we
Yeah,
all got the
so-
same mom.
Yeah. So, to really I just wanted to let you know that first time I saw Faisal, he hit me in the mouth. I was going to say hi to him because he's my brother, right? And he didn't. I guess he forgot about me or whatever. But he was very mean, and he hit me right in the mouth. I remember, I just out of the blue, this kid just hit me in the mouth. But anyways, we grow up to be very close, all of us. We were, alhamdulillah, thank God, we grew up to be very close and not sustain being in the United States. And thank God for my grandfather, who was an American citizen. So when my mom was born, she automatically became an American citizen, and my dad was able to come here because of her. And then he was able to bring his family over here, just like he said. But my Uncle Joe, who came here and he enlisted in Vietnam War, my father was drafted, but because we had two children at the time during the draft, they wouldn't take him. Thank God they spared him from going to Vietnam.
Hazel, do you remember coming back and hitting Jim? I think that's a great piece. Like, do you remember that? Like, because Jim remembers it, like it was yesterday.
yeah, yeah. We were on the sidewalk at the apartments, and that's the way I was, because you had to fight to survive. And he came up. I didn't know who he was, and just like that's the way I was overseas. If I didn't know you, I didn't trust you. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get the upper hand, because I don't know if you're gonna grab me and do something with me, or do something to my little brother or my grandma. So that's the way I was.
Yeah.
I remember hitting him.
Because you
we
came
were
back.
on the sidewalk.
You came back thinking you're the oldest brother, and then all of a sudden you had a big brother.
I didn't even know. Only person I knew I said the only person I didn't even know I had. Jamal was the only brother I knew. I didn't know there was Wally and Todd getting ready to be born, and all that. Like I said, and I'll be honest with you, and I told Jim this. I was like, damn, they got something screwed up, because I'm not one of these kids. And I said, something ain't right. We got mismatched or something. And then I was always in the back of my mind till Jim did the DNA and Caleb did the DNA, and he was the closest relative to her.
So all these years, you think that you aren't one of us?
Yeah, for a long time. I mean, it was always in the back of my mind. One thing, and y'all might not realize it, but my parents, they treated me different than they treated y'all. They always were. They kind of shunned me from the time I came back from overseas.
Go ahead, Jamal.
I said we want to say that thank God that Sophie's doing good, and he's out of the hospital, and he's doing real good, alhamdulillah. And we just want to let you know that out of our broadcast people that's watching us, that Sophie is out of the hospital and he is doing a lot better.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Alhamdulillah. We should have started with that because we're always missing one person, and so hopefully, inshallah, next week Sophie will be back with us. But it is neat having Pops on here, and hopefully we'll have our mom on here too, because she remembers a lot of different things. So we'll get her on here one day. But some of the things that Pops did bring up is it seemed just talking to him seemed like really his favorite child is Shadia. And it just seemed like it. He lit up every time we talked about Shadia. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. Shadia, why do you think you're like he liked you so much? Because you're the youngest, or what?
I mean, well, I was the first girl after so many boys. Oh wait, there's Melissa.
Really, Shadia? Really?
You guys have to remember, I was the youngest, and eventually I was the only one left at home. Everybody left, and it was almost an empty nest except for me. Sophie left. You guys went to college, got married, and I was the only one left at home for a while. So I know, like, a lot of times you guys say, "Oh, Dad bought you a car, and Dad paid for your college, and Dad did this, and Dad did that," but Dad was supporting 11 kids at one time. So when it came down to me and me being the only one in the house, he was down to supporting one kid. So that's a big difference.
Wait a minute, Shadia, but he favored you. Hold on.
One kid.
He favored you before we had all 11 were together. Like, did you not
I'm
watch?
just saying, because I know a lot of times it's like, "Oh, Dad paid for your college." Now, let me tell you, I did want to go away to college, and my dad said, "Hey, if you stay home." So I went to a local university that I drove like 10 minutes away, University of Mary Washington, holla. So my dad said, "If you stay home, I'll pay for your college." And he said, "If you go to Mason or somewhere else and don't live at home, I'm not going to pay for your college." So I opted to stay at home so my college could be paid for. And so, I didn't go to Rhode Island. I didn't go to Radford, the party school.
Yeah,
I didn't go.
But Sam's still upset about one situation that he's still upset about.
What's that?
Yeah, so as everyone sees, I have a gap in my teeth. I asked my parents for braces, and my father's like, "Hey, look, we can't afford braces because he worked for himself, so he didn't have insurance. So I couldn't get braces. But magically, Shadia, the golden child, got braces. I don't know if her insurance changed then or not.
No,
but Shadia got braces and I didn't. So, but that's okay.
So my gap was a lot bigger. My gap was a lot bigger. And my dad got me braces. I was going into 9th grade. And Alhamdulillah, Antasar, our cousin, worked at an orthodontist office. And she got my dad a really good deal. I think she got like half off. And he would drive me every 6 weeks or whatever to my appointment in Fairfax. And she helped us out a lot by getting us that. May she rest in peace. Getting us that. But my gap was huge. I had Sam, your gap is doable. My gap was huge.
Okay, so the point is you're the golden child from day one. Day one, you've been the golden child.
Yeah, so they even forgot that they had a daughter before Shadia, right? Is that what you're saying, Melissa?
Yeah, you didn't watch the videos that Jim sent us the other day. My dad's asking her in the picture, "Come, Shadia, take a picture. Come, Shadia, take a picture." But here I am sitting quietly on the couch. No one even offered to take my picture.
Like,
so Melissa's referring to a video.
The part about it is, then when Melissa got her first car, she had to pay for it, and it was a junker out of Warrenton, Virginia. But when Shadia got her first car, my dad went and bought her a brand new car.
No, Jamal, let's back up a second. He bought her 2 cars. He bought her the first used car and decided that wasn't good enough for her. Then he bought her a new car.
No,
yeah,
wait a
the one from
second.
Sam's
Wait a second.
friend.
Nope, you guys are forgetting about the Kia, the 98 Kia. And when I was in 12th grade, my dad, that was my first car, was a 98 Kia. My dad went and bought it off the lot for $4,300. I put $1,300 from my savings and he put $3,000 from him. Promise you to God, you can ask him, okay? Yeah. That was my first car.
Yeah,
I
Melissa's
drove that
car
car
was
for 4 years. And then that's when we got the new car, okay?
No, Shaggy, but you had the
Melissa's car was
yellow Escape.
$1,200.
Yeah, I had the yellow Escape for a few months that we bought from your manager. But then we got the Corolla when I was, I think, my second full year in college. Like I was almost done my second year in college. But the 98 Kia was the first car, and I did put $1,300 down because I worked in high school since I was in 9th grade.
So what I hear is you've had 3 cars as a kid, and none of us even had a car.
Well,
Yeah.
Is that what you heard, Melissa?
Okay.
Yes.
Melissa, is that what you heard?
Look, my first car, I think I was short money and Sam gave me the extra money for my car. And then there was a Dodge Daytona. It was old. Jamal found it for me. Right. And then after I was going to get ready to get married, I traded it in and went and got the Corolla and I had a payment on it. You know who made the payment on it? I made the payment on it. I'm still making payments on a car.
Melissa, can I get that money back that I let you borrow?
We even,
but no, my dad
our father. Melissa even asked our father for the money to buy the car, and he said, "No, you work, you buy your own car."
And I will tell you, Melissa? Like alhamdulillah, my parents from this day have always taken care of me, and I ain't gonna deny that one bit. My parents have always taken really good care of me. I appreciate them, love them for that. But you know, you guys can hate if you want.
Is that why you call them your parents? Because they take care of you? Like instead of saying, you know, Melissa,
I think that's a habit we all have. We all say my parents when we talk to each other about our parents. I think that's like a habit we've had for a long time.
Melissa, did you feel like you and Shadia had a sibling rivalry growing up because you were like the only 2?
I mean, I feel like we got closer as maybe around the time before I got married. As we were younger, I felt like maybe I was Cinderella and she was the stepsisters. But
now I will tell you a story I remember with Melissa living in the old house and when we lived in the country. So we lived in the country. We moved out of the country when I was in like middle school, but we shared a bedroom, and the bedroom was right next to my parents' room, and it had one closet in there, and it was a pretty decent closet. And Melissa wouldn't let me hang out my clothes in the closet. She threw a fit. She would not let me hang up my clothes. And so she went crying to my parents, and my parents said, let her have the closet. And so they gave Melissa the closet, and I had to put my clothes in the laundry room because we had this big laundry room at the end of the house. I had to go and put my clothes in the storage in the laundry room because Melissa wouldn't let me share the closet in that house. Promise to God, I remember that story.
I wanted one thing. Like, it's just the closet. You got a car. You got all the gold. You got everything.
You got the braces.
You got
braces.
Wow. Hey, Joe, you were kind of close that age. Do you remember Melissa and Shadia fighting at all? What do you mean by that?
No, because we only had one pot of food, so the guys ate first, and then the girls ate last, and then whatever was left over, they had a fight over it.
Oh God, Joe, I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, I remember my mom would always.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember my mom would always cook this big pot of food every morning before she went to the store or wherever.
So the guys ate first, and y'all were last.
And then as the day went on, people just ate from that pot. That's all I remember. We just ate from that pot as the day went on. But I don't remember that.
Well, y'all couldn't reach the top of the stove, so then we had to give you whatever was left over.
Thank you for thinking about us.
No problem.
I do want to say something. Siti Yamne, our grandmother, was very involved in our household, and she did help out with the food, and she did help out with different things, even though she was, older. So I just want to make sure that we bring her and that, which means may she rest in peace. She was a active role in our growing up, especially in the old house. you know. And so we'll have to tell the story about where after we sold or after we rented the house out, where the tenants had said that they had seen her in spirit after she had passed on. So, anyways, I just wanted to say that, you know, so you guys are talking about the food, the one pot, but I'm sure my grandmother was a part of that, because she was a part of that when she lived with us here in Fairfax. So, you know, and that's the other thing. I mean, we, you know, I loved, you know, my grandmother, but she did take care of, you know, you guys pretty much when you're growing up. I just do want to say that. So she was a part of our family that, you know, was basically another parent. She babysat you guys and did take care of you. So I just want to iterate that just a little bit.
Shadi, were you her favorite child as well? I mean, you used to be Abner's favorite child?
You know, when Sissy died, I was in first grade. I remember coming home off the bus, and my dad and Ahmed and my mom were outside, and I didn't know what was going on. And I walked inside, and Summer and Melissa were sitting on, you know, cleaning up and stuff like that. And they told me, and I was really heartbroken. And I remember that day that she died. And but unfortunately, I don't have that many other memories of her. I mean, I have a few memories of her, and you know, her being in that house in the country with us. And I remember us loving her so much. I don't have a lot of other memories of her because she died when I was so young. But I wish I would have got to know her as much as some of my older brothers did. Because I never. So Sissy Yamna was the last grandma to be alive for me. So my last grandma died when I was in first grade, and I never got to meet any of my granddads. So I never had that grandparent figure. And so I wish I got to know her as much as my brothers did.
Sitting on the couch, it was in the corner, wearing her blue robe with the white, hijab on it. And she always used to have like some kind of food, some kind of candy, something, you know. She would have like her favorite snacks, and as we would go by, she would always, you know, give it to us, or we would sit next to her. And she didn't know a lot of English, and a lot of times, you know, the cat would be around the house, and she would try to like shoo the cat away with the broom and stuff. So I mean, yeah, I can remember her. I can picture her really good in my mind, and I remember she was really good to us and stuff.
I was like, when we lived in Arlington, my grandma would hide a few dollars that she would get. So I would call a taxi cab, and we'd go to Safeway, and I was just a little kid. I'd take her to Safeway, and she liked greens, like collard greens and stuff like that, and she'd come back and cook it. She said my mom wouldn't fix it for her. So I've never making a lot of trips to the Safeway from Arlington, you know, because my mom would be gone, and I don't know if y'all remember, she used to go outside the house in Spotsylvania and pick the collard greens, the wild collard greens that were growing in the grass, and cook them.
Yeah,
you remember that?
It's dandelions. She would drink the dandelion greens. So she would do that here too. She picked the dandelion, you know, the dandelion greens. They're edible. That's what she used to pick, and she used to make it, wash it, and make the salad here. You know, or the greens.
Yeah,
I was talking to Linda, and Linda says she remembers our grandmother, Siti Amna, when she used to run through the hallway. Siti used to try to chase her, you know, because she was a little girl at the time, and she used to be in her room, our grandmother used to be in her room, and on my back bedroom, and Linda used to be running through the hallway, and my grandmother would try to grab her legs, and she would think that, you know, it was like somebody going after her, you know. At the time.
Yeah, because you know, there's a age. What's the age difference between Shadia and Linda?
3 years.
3 years?
Like, yeah, 3 years. Because she was born in 87. I was born in 84. We're born in the same month. 3 years.
Yeah. So Jason is older than Linda. He was born in March of 87. So he's actually, you know, closer to your age than Linda.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah, so Linda,
you're in the big city, Jim, with your kids. So, Linda had to be born in Spotsylvania in the country with the rest of us.
I mean, you know what?
Right.
You know, when they moved to Roanoke, we really had a good time, didn't we, Jamal? We really had a good time in Roanoke. We went to the park. It was really nice,
I was just saying, Linda is
Go
very
ahead.
close to
Go
my
ahead,
age.
Shadia.
She was like as we grew up, we got closer too. So she was like another sister to me. So when Melissa used to annoy me, I just go to Linda and vice versa. So it was nice having her close to my age.
Hey, Todd, we haven't heard from you today. What's going on with you?
Not much, man. Just listening to the stories, and I definitely remember Siti chasing the cat with the broom all around the house. That gray cat, and that gray cat would go out. She would get it outside, and that house was old, and the cat would go underneath the house and come back in through the laundry room, and then like 2 minutes later, the cat was back in the house. And I remember when she would have, if I had friends over, kids came over in the neighborhood, she would shoo them away. They didn't know, they didn't understand. And then I remember the day she passed away. I went there. She was in the room, and I stopped by, check on her, and then she said she didn't need anything. And then I left. And I think my dad went to check on her like less than a half hour later, and she had passed away that day. And then, we had a lot of fun in the country, playing outside, making our own basketball hoop, wrestling. Reese and Sam used to always pick on Joe, and I had to defend Joe. I used to be Joe's tag team partner, and we made fake belts. The wrestling belts. And then, Shaddy, what grade were you in when you moved to Chancellor? When you moved to Royal Oaks, what grade were you in?
So my dad sold the store when I was in 8th grade. And so we finished up 8th grade in I finished up 8th grade in John J. Wright, and we finished up 8th grade in Spotsylvania. I don't know if you guys remember, but he rented out his house, and then he bought a trailer and put it across from the store so me and Sophie can finish up the school year there. And then I moved to Royal Oaks in 9th grade, and I started Chancellor in 9th grade.
Yeah, and I always thought it was funny that we had this. My parents built the big house in Royal Oaks with all those bathrooms, but we really grew up in the country with one bathroom, and then they moved.
We had two bathrooms.
One was off limits. You couldn't go to that one. The one in my parents' room, and then they moved to Royal Oaks. And they had how many bathrooms in that house? So I always thought that was a little bit funny.
Yeah, 5 bathrooms.
I remember growing up in the country. We had some good times. We worked, but we had some fun times.
Yeah.
So Sam, we haven't heard from you too much today. What do you remember growing up in the country? Siti Amna, you remember when she passed away?
Yeah, I'm just still trying to think about how I can get braces at the age of 48. What I'm still thinking about. No, but Siti Amna, she was like a second mother to us. I mean, she did a lot for us as we're growing up. She was the one that really watched us while my parents worked in the grocery store. So I remember like it was yesterday, as Todd was saying, she used to have the broom and she used to shoo the cat, get away. And she didn't speak a lot of English. So, she was like, get away. But, one of the things too is that with Siti Amna growing, we grew up, with her living in the house in the country. She's the one that taught us really how to speak Arabic, right? Because she didn't speak any English. So we had to learn what she was saying. And, I remember all of our friends used to come to the house. They used to be scared of her, right? Because she didn't speak any English. And she used to always say, get away. And she always had the broom in her hand. And, but she was, I think the biggest thing that we remember is Reith and myself and Joe. We used to sleep on the couch and watch TV. We used to watch wrestling. And we used to have the TV on, and then she used to come and turn the TV off, and we used to pretend like we were sleeping. And then as she walked away to go back to her room, we would turn the TV on, and she would see the shadow of the TV come back on, and she would say something in Arabic and walk away to her room. So, but yeah, I remember like it was yesterday, and she passed away in 1993, correct, Jim?
No,
1991.
1991. Yeah, 1991.
October 25th.
I know I was a freshman in high school, and I think Reith was in 10th grade at the time that she had passed away. So we had a lot of memories with her growing up.
You know, Sam, the funny part is when you talk about sleeping in the living room, because we used to fall asleep in the living room on the couches, and because we used to be in one room, so we'd fall asleep in the living room. And she did come out of her room, but what I remember most about not her just turning off the TV, but she used to fix those pillows on us and make sure we were comfortable. And I don't know what she did to those pillows, man, but it felt so good when she fixed that pillow. It was so comfortable. She did it right. I don't know why. We should maybe come over to each one of us, fix our pillows, make sure the blanket was on us, and then go back into her room. And I don't know. Remember, nobody can fix my pillow like that anymore. I don't get a comfortable night's sleep, and I don't know how she used to fix that pillow. But that's what I remember. But I also remember when she did pass away. I think we were finishing up football practice, and I think Faisal came and to get me from football practice because she had passed away that morning. But we were in school, and they came to let us know.
Yeah, well, one of the things, Reith, just real quick with Siti Yamna, remember she always loved to drink 7-Up. So when we're at the store, we always used to bring her 7-Up home, and that was her favorite drink was 7-Up. And we used to have it at the store. She always used to drink that drink, the 7-Up. She always had a 7-Up.
And Siti, my mom was her only surviving child. She had a lot of babies that were not able to survive. So my mom was her only child. So I'm sure she loved having all these children around her and helping raising them, seeing that, that's what she wanted. She wanted kids, and she only was able, my mom was the only one to survive. So I think she probably really, really loved, and she's watching over all of us now. She probably really loved having all of us.
Yeah, Allah Hamad. Yeah, she really had a tough life growing up. And she really did lose all her children. They would be less than a year old and they would die. And back then, they didn't have the medical, especially there in that village, they didn't have the medical knowledge that they have now. But what to say about Siti Yamna is that she really did love. She was very faithful to her faith. She would pray 5 times a day. She would wada, which means she washed herself before she prayed. She was a very devout Muslim. And I don't know if you guys remember, she was the only one that fasted. No one in my family fasted except for her growing up. I mean, now, of course, you guys fast, but back then, no one fasted. She fasted.
Yeah, nobody really took the time to teach us. I mean, she taught us about some stuff, Jim, but nobody really took the time to teach us about the religion and the faith and the traditions of fasting. It wasn't until we really it wasn't really till we got married and and we learned more about it, and we wanted to be able to pass that along. It was because fasting is it's getting ready to come up, right? So
coming up exactly
in a couple of weeks. And when you have to do that as a kid, you didn't know anything about that. And like Amna, is 17 years old. She's been doing it since elementary school, and I don't know, it was a different time then, but nobody really taught us the purpose and the reasonings behind that. So it wasn't until we got older until we started learning about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
just right real quick. I remember I used to fast when I was young because when I would go to school, the kids used to make fun of me because I wasn't eating. So we learned that from Siti Yamna, and we were copying what she was doing. So I know that even like Joe and Reith, as we're going, getting older. We didn't understand why. We just understood that our grandmother was doing it, and we were following what she was doing. So now, as we more educated in the faith, then we can teach our kids, and they understand. But I remember fasting, and kids were like, well, you're not eating lunch today. It's like, well, I'm fasting because my grandmother's, I'm not eating because my grandmother's not eating, and they would pick on us, when we're young, not knowing the reason and why.
Yeah, but even to the day that she died, when she had a stroke and she could only move one side, she still prayed. She still prayed in that bed. She had the catheter connected to her, and she still prayed in her bed. And the last day that she died, my father came to check on her. She asked my dad to please she needed a glass of water. So my dad went in to grab her the glass of water. When he came back, she had passed. And anyways, I just want to say that she was a big influence on all our lives. Like I said, I asked her all the time about Sayyidina Isa, Jesus Christ, and I asked her about different things, and she told me so much. Maybe we'll share that one day of all the different things she told me, and especially the angels that had appeared before her. And we always think of an angel being some white, angel and having a face and all that, and it wasn't what she saw. She saw like something of a images personage, but not where she can actually see the face. And she was scared to death. And anyways, I'll tell that story one of these days. But she told me a lot about about the faith that growing up, and especially the respect for God. God was a big deal, man. I don't know if you guys remember. We Tove, and we would just, there was just so much about God that she taught us. And but anyways, I know we're getting close to time here, but maybe we'll talk about it in the future. But
yeah, definitely. We got a lot. We got a lot to talk about. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about. So, but we do got Ramadan coming up, and so if people don't know what that is, we brought it up. Is Ramadan is coming up probably in 2 weeks, and we fast from sun up to sundown. And yes, March. No water. We're gonna have to come up with a shirt that says yes, no water, because I guess a lot of people don't realize you can't have anything in that time. I tell you, to be honest with you, and we lose track of this, but what I enjoy most about Ramadan and then the Eid, it's not even about the Eid, the last day, the celebration, but it's about getting together with our family for that once a week dinner, and we say once Ramadan finishes, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We don't do it. So I know Ramadan's coming back around, and we're going to start that tradition again where we meet once a week. We usually meet on Fridays, and we're, and we get together and it's potluck, and it's just a good time. And I'm hoping that this year more people come. When I say more people, I'm speaking of Jim. Hopefully Faisal can make the track down a little bit to it, because we do really have a good time during that once a week dinner, and the kids get together, and the kids don't get to see each other as much. So it is coming around. So let's really kind of be thoughtful.
Don't fast and don't really observe Ramadan. I feel bad to go and celebrate something that I haven't fasted for. I've never fasted for Ramadan or anything of that nature. So that makes me, it's a guilt thing where I used to see my coworkers that were Muslim, they would fast, and I never did fast or really observe the holiday. So that's one of the reasons that I feel guilty just to go and have dinner as a celebration, where I feel it's haram. So I'm just being honest with you.
I think it's important to note that with if you're sick and God doesn't want us to do anything to harm ourselves, He excuses you from that, and He just asks for you to maybe put money towards someone that maybe need it. I also think it's important to note one of the two main reasons we fast. Allah wants us to know that we have control over ourselves. So if we can teach ourselves self-discipline and willpower, our body to say, you know, we don't need this right now. We can also teach our body and self-discipline and willpower to like not do drugs, not drink, not smoke, to not curse, and so on. Also, so we can feel what others feel, that, you know, we're so fortunate, and to feel what others feel that can't have food when they want food, and can't, you know, have a drink when they want to drink, and so on. So those are two of the main reasons we fast, is to build that self-discipline, build that willpower within ourselves, so we can, you know, make our bodies and our minds stronger, and then also to feel what others feel on a daily basis, and to know that we are so fortunate to have what we have.
And Jim, don't ever feel bad, because it's really about family. You know, that really, you should see when everybody gets together, you know, I mean, and so hopefully, you know, obviously we'll set up a schedule and everybody's invited. I mean, we invite people all the time, you know, regardless of if they're fasting or not, because that's what it's about. It's about putting people together and getting together during that time. And if you don't follow us yet, you know, we're on Abed 11 on most all the social media. And we're also on Spotify, and we're on YouTube. When you go to those, please subscribe or follow and share and like. We really do appreciate it. We put some videos out there about being one of 11 and what we went through as growing up. And so we finished putting those videos out for the most part until we have a few more. But if you see us on TikTok, Spotify, Instagram, or YouTube and Facebook, subscribe, follow, share, do all that good stuff for us, so more people can listen. Because what I get excited about most, and we talked about this a little bit, is the people who come and say, hey, I listened, and they resonate. Like, you know, one of the coaches came up to us the other day, and he didn't realize what Wally was named after our brother Wally. So our nephew Wally was named after our brother Wally, and he was named after his uncle. And so it was really neat to hear that. And I'm sure all of us kind of hear those stories from different people. So,
yeah, I just do want to say one thing. My daughter never realized that her great-grandfather served in World War I. So anyways, just to show you that, and her friends watch it too. So anyways, guys, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Our heartfelt gratitude for joining our journey, immersing yourself in our tales, and becoming a part of our family. Stay connected with us by following at Abed 11 on TikTok, Instagram,